Hello and welcome to Dinos. I'm Shaun and I just wanted to take a little bit of time to express my love for the Legacy of Kain series. Now this is a series I've been a huge fan of for a very long time, and as of last year it feels real good to be getting some recognition again. It has been a long time. Well, it'd been 21 years between the last proper release, which was Legacy of Kain Defiance, and the release of Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remastered. So just thought I'd have a bit of a chat through my timeline with these games, espousing how much I love each one of them, and how much I'm looking forward to, hopefully, a future of this series. I mean, they've got to remaster Defiance, if nothing else. I mean, Blood Omen 2, you could put a lot of polish to, but Defiance just absolutely has to come back as soon as possible. But anyway, so my start with the Legacy of Kain series was to completely ignore Blood Omen, the Legacy of Kain. I didn't have a PS1, and while I was PC at the gaming at the time, it was mostly FPS, and this never really hit my radar. So my starting was, as was often the time, I may have seen a magazine ad or two, possibly, but I basically went into one of the shops in town that have video games. I saw Soul Reaver for the Dreamcast. Yes, I was a Dreamcast guy. I love that thing. And I'm like, now this looks cool as hell. And then I read the back. I'm like, yeah, this appears to be cool as hell. And I got home and I put it in my Dreamcast and I loaded it up. And the first thing that plays is a big cutscene about a vampire who made a decision hundreds of years ago that cursed the earth. And then one of his lieutenants gains some wings, so he horribly betrays him and throws him into a well of souls, and then he's resurrected by an elder demon. And I'm like, yeah, this is in fact cool as hell. This is one of the coolest things I've ever played. And one of the great things about that game, because I'd never played, most of us have never played it. There's not a lot that's like Legacy of Kain. The way it structures its cutscenes and the way everyone speaks and the way it's all delivered, there isn't a lot like this, and it really speaks to me. I mean, I absolutely adore it. But yeah, playing through that whole game, I'd never played anything quite like it either, because I went from the N64 to the Dreamcast. So I had kind of played Mario in a 3D space. I didn't have the Zelda games, so I'd not played a lot in a 3D space. And then I'm going straight to this. I'm like, oh, I'd played Sonic Adventure, but like, I'm coming to this, I'm like, it looks so cool and it plays so differently and it's so awesome. So yeah, it absolutely blew me away. And by the end of the game, I didn't find it frustrating in that well, found the end boss frustrating. We all know that's not one of the high points of the series. Kain in the end of that game is kind of annoying to fight. But I wasn't disappointed that it was ending. But I was absolutely desperate to know what happened next. I was furious with it. Obviously, you're going to get a level of emotional investment in a game, especially a game as plot and character heavy and lore heavy as this. So by the end of that game, I was not only furious at Kain because of everything that had gone on, and we wanted to finally kill him, and as we thought at the time, that would just restore everything, but also him getting away kind of cheap at the end. Like, you fight him in the big boss fight and you have to attack him and everything like that. He's just like, do you know what, actually, nah, this isn't actually how I die, so bye! And he just fucks off into the next game. I was just like, oh, you son of a bitch, I was absolutely furious with the character and the way it had been written. It was really well done. So, a couple of years later, Soul Reaver 2. It is the reason I bought a PlayStation 2. I was waiting for the Xbox to come out. And, like, there are a load of great games on the PS2, do not get me wrong. But Soul Reaver was only coming to the PlayStation 2. I'm like, fine, I'll buy a PS2 then. So I did for Soul Reaver 2. And I was greatly rewarded, because not only is the PS2 a great console, I got loads of amazing games for it, but Soul Reaver 2 is fucking amazing. That is a game that it has such a narrative and such a it weaves its threads so incredibly wrong that by the end, yeah, I absolutely believed that Kain would either leave Raziel to die or save him. So at the end of the game, I'm just sitting there watching this cutscene, like a death grip on my controller, is going, how is this going to end? How is this possibly going to end? I was so excited. I was so enthused, and it ends perfectly. Of course it does. And the whole story of so the first one is Raziel wanting to destroy Kain because of everything he'd done to him, what he believed his past life was, what he believed past Nosgoth was. You know, he wanted revenge for all of that. And the second one, the entire second one, is turning all of that on his head and making Raziel realise, actually, everything I thought about previous me is not entirely true. Everything I thought about previous Nosgoth, it's not really that true, is it? And that was absolutely superb. In every way, I think Soul Reaver 2 improved on the gameplay of the first one. I kind of skipped over it a little bit because in the first one's a little rough around the edges. You know, you're seeing video in the background here. I was playing it and having a whale of a time, but it is the second one does improve on everything. It's just a bit tighter. It's just a bit cleaner. They didn't quite figure out the camera yet. But I know a lot of people don't like Defiance, but I actually kind of preferred that because the camera's a bit ropey in 1 and 2. But yeah, so Soul Reaver 2, by and large, has everything that was great about the first one, and then levels it up to 11. And then Blood Omen 2 came out, and as I think we're all okay to admit, it's a bit of the black sheep of the family. Like, its continuity doesn't make a lot of sense. It's frustrating. The gameplay is quite fun, but I still didn't like it as much as the Soul Reaver game's gameplay. And the story is just frustrating because, again, it's a bit like what they did with years later with the Lords of Shadows Castlevania game and stuff like that. It's like, alright, this is a game. So, Blood Omen has happened. Kain has dropped Nosgoth into a dark age, and he is the king of the vampires, and he's slowly taking over the entire place. I want to play that. And then you're like, oh, here's Blood Omen 2. Kain is basically kind of like he was in the first one again. He's more just going through the motions because he wants his revenge, because Kain's such an awesome character. He's such a petty dick. Despite having these grand plans and all of his talk of coins landing on their edges. Like, the core of Kain is actually still quite petty and bitter, and God, I love that guy. So yeah, all through the second one, it was kind of disappointing what that story was, because it wasn't, you know, it wasn't what you'd want to play. You'd want to play Kain invading another country or something, like another land or something like that. One where, you know, make a Seraphan stronghold country like Vatican City or something and be laying siege to that, something cool like that. But no, we got stripped down Kain, and we had to slow, and I don't think the controls are great in Blood Omen 2. I still enjoyed it, do not get me wrong, but I think it's by far the weakest of the series. And then Legacy of Kain Defiance came out, and oh my god, I was losing my mind just playing through that thing. Like, the story is so full of insane twists and turns. I think the gameplay has leveled up from Soul Reaver and Soul Reaver 2. I like the kind of mostly fixed camera thing. I know a lot of people don't. That's perfectly fair. But I quite like that. I hadn't played like the Resident Evils and stuff like that. I'd played Code Veronica on my Dreamcast, so I was like, well, this is better than Code Veronica because not with the tank control shite. But yeah, and Legacy of Kain Defiance absolutely blew me away. It has a scene that gives me like an intense emotional reaction every time I go back to it, and I do go back to it relatively often. It's the whole thing where Raziel finally accepts his fate and becomes the sword. I think that is beautiful, and the build up to it is phenomenal. It just takes the threads from the start of Soul Reaver all the way through and ties them into the neatest of bows, and that has been there the whole time. It's been very obvious the whole time that Raziel is the thing in the sword. Like, you can, right at the start of Soul Reaver 2, they are telling you that. But yeah, to actually see it and for him to accept that fate, it's so beautiful. And then Kain goes off to fight the Elder God, who's basically like, I mean, we'll have a bit of a fight. You can take your Pyrrhic victory, but there's nothing you can do about me. I'm literally a god, so... It's so awesome. And then right at the end, right at the very end, you get the giant cliffhanger. The Hilden! And then just nothing. 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 It's so frustrating. I waited like a decade on. I was still like searching message boards and stuff like that just to see if anything was coming. So yeah, I knew about the couple of attempts to follow on and everything like that. I played a little bit of the this was later, I think. I played a little bit of the open beta of Nosgoth. I did not give that a fair chance. I'll be the first to admit it. It wasn't what I wanted. The fact that it was yet another, like, the AAA game industry is so awful for seeing something make money and then just making 1,000 clones and variations of it. Like, with all that money, you'd think innovation would be at the forefront, but it's quite the opposite. So, you know, I was annoyed that they made it a multiplayer MMO. I was annoyed that we didn't get any kind of follow-up from Defiance in it. Apparently the lore in it is great, but I played it just so... I played it for confirmation bias. This is not what I want. I'm going to be pissed off playing this. Oh, I hate it. And I never played it again. Which is annoying, because apparently a lot of the lore in there is really cool. And it's really, really carefully managed. But, yeah, it wasn't for me. And then I sat here with my... with my Kain Sigil t-shirts that I buy or bought every once in a while from like Redbubble because no one gave a crap about the trademark. People like, oh, that's a good t-shirt. I'm like, yeah, it's for like this 15-year-old video game. It's like massively obscure thing, but yeah. And then Embracer Group bought a load of stuff from Square, and it seemed like they were going to be a big player in the sphere, and they've been another crushing disappointment. But that's what you get. But that has led eventually to 2024, in which this all kicked off with the Evercade, my now beloved Evercade, releasing a cartridge of Blood Omen: The Legacy of Kain and the original PS1 version of Soul Reaver. Now, I played a small amount of Blood Omen: The Legacy of Kain in the past. I tried getting it running on my PC because it was abandonware for a long time. I've still got the files on a hard drive somewhere, but it wouldn't play quite right. I couldn't quite get my head around playing it with keyboards and stuff without a manual and stuff, so I gave up. Now that I have the Evercade, I am 2/3, 3/4 of the way through it, and I am absolutely adoring it. It has jumped up to one of my favourite in the series. To be fair, right, saying it's jumped up to one of my favourite series means I now put it on a level with Blood Omen, Soul Reaver 2, and Defiance. Basically, it's not in the tier of Blood Omen 2, which is good, occasionally very good, whereas the others are all excellent. I freaking love Blood Omen. I'm not even sure it needs a remaster. I think everyone just needs to play this version, but, you know, a remake would be kind of cool. But yeah, so I got that, and around the same time, the graphic novel was announced. Bit more media on Kickstarter. They're just like, oh yeah, we're going to do a new in continuity Legacy of Kain graphic novel. I'm like, well, I'm going to back that, which I did. I didn't get to order as much of the extra stuff as I wanted because of my finances at the time, but suffice it to say, I spent a bit on it. I did spend a little bit on it, but yeah, we'll wait for that to come next year. And then we saw the statues, which may or may not have originally contained a Legacy of Kain Remastered branding. So that was very, very exciting, and then they weren't put out on the floor, which was a bit weird. And then eventually Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remastered was announced, and I immediately pre-ordered it. And I've played a little bit of it. Like I say, I'm going to finish Blood Omen first and then play through them properly. And very recently, which I have now also backed, Limited Run Games are doing a physical version, and they're doing like a steel case, and they're doing a big box one which contains another little mini comic. I'm a comic guy, I'm so happy with this. Yeah, it's got like another mini comic, so that will come at the end of 2025, and we can only hope that, like, I think we have proved as a fan base that Legacy of Kain is viable to go forward. If they don't do what companies like this, like Square did with Deus Ex, they took quite a niche game that sold great through word of mouth and decided, yes, this is going to become our super expensive AAA multimedia project, and then when they realized it was niche, they cancelled the rest of the franchise. You just need to go into this new Legacy of Kain game understanding that this is niche, its audience is there, and we will pay for it, but we are not the majority of the gaming community. So if you set this out as a mid-budget thing, put all your money into the voice acting, cutscenes and stuff like that, and make so basically, I've been saying for so long, the template to make a new Legacy of Kain game is the Darksiders games, right? So make something like that. That's how you modernize the gameplay and everything like that. Make it as classic Legacy of Kain as you want. If you absolutely need to, you can jump into. I would love for it to start with, like, over to one side having a 10-minute previously on, and I would literally start it with Kain's the Hilden, right, and the pillars cracking, and then I would jump 100 years in the future, and that gives you your fresh slate. I mean, I would still start with Kain with his Reaver containing Raziel, and I would have Raziel, because, you know, Raziel is one of the key characters from this, so I would have Raziel in this state finally be able to talk to Kain at the same time. I understand that breaks lore a little bit, but every time Kain has come across the Soul Reaver before, it has lain dormant for thousands of years, or hundreds of years, whatever. So Raziel's, his consciousness has broken, and he's now just effectively an urge of hunger. But you could, that is a way to keep both characters around for the fans of Raziel and for obviously Kain, who needs to be it's literally called the Legacy of Kain. And yeah, the Hilden have come. They're taking over whatever, and then you can take the story in whatever dimension, in whatever direction you want. You could trying to banish the Hilden back to their Hell dimension. You could have some horrible third or fourth, because I guess the humans is the third faction, coming in and lead towards some kind of merging of the, you know, some kind of truce between them all. You know, the Elder God is still out there. He's not got Mobius anymore, but Mobius is literally a time streamer, so, like, you only need to be like, oh yeah, this is Mobius from like 20 minutes before his death, and then you can use that character as much as you want. So there's plenty of scope for new Legacy of Kain, and I, for one, am absolutely here for it, and desperate for it as well, because, like, this has stirred up old fires. Like, this is not like a, oh, it's nice to finally have this. This is me entirely on full alert being like, right, we've got this now. Legacy of Kain is coming back. We're finally getting the sequel. We're going to get the conclusion to the story. Oh my god, it's finally happening. So, like, my expectations are now ridiculously high. Which after 20-something years, they shouldn't be, but fuck it. I finally get some more Legacy of Kain. So, I hope you've enjoyed the footage. This is some Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remastered. I love the Legacy of Kain, and let's go. Bring it. Let's have more merch. Let's have more games. Let's have more Legacy of Kain. Let's have a movie. Let's have a TV series. Let's just have everything be Legacy of Kain. Oh my god, I love Legacy of Kain. Bye. 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 Bye.
The pillars of Nosgoth, pristine, whole, and uncorrupted. I had never beheld them in this undefiled state, yet something profound and indelible resonated within me at the sight. And there, waiting at the very heart of the pillars, was the canker that was destined to destroy them.
I know you're there, Raziel.
Mobius led me to you, Kain, though I might have guessed you'd meet me here.
And if Mobius told you I was hidden on the underside of hell, would you throw yourself into oblivion to pursue me? Mobius trawls for the ignorant and unwary, hauling his gasping prey from the streams of their destinies. Stay out of his net, Raziel.
Spare me your elaborate metaphors, Kain. I have pursued you here for one purpose. You will pay for your betrayal, and balance will thus be restored to Nosgoth.
And whose will is satisfied then? The will of Raziel or Mobius?
Would I be better manipulated by you, Kain? Now, turn and face me. The chase is over.
This isn't a chase, Raziel. We are merely passengers on the wheel of destiny, describing a perfect circle to this point. We've been brought here for a reason. I've seen the beginning and the end of our story, however, and the tale is crude and ill-conceived. We must rewrite the ending of it. You and I.
Face me, Kain. Even you shouldn't die a coward's death.
Isn't it customary to grant the condemned a final request?
I recall no such courtesy from you.
Indulge me, Raziel. All I ask is that you listen. This is the sublime moment of our undoing, Raziel. The ineffable fulcrum upon which swings the entirety of our history. This is where all of Nosgoth is betrayed. In this instant, Ariel, the Balance Guardian, is murdered by dark forces bent on overthrowing the pillars. Her spirit is just now tearing free, lost in the ether, trying to find its way here. You have already seen how she comes to haunt these pillars.
Bound here by your refusal to die. You are the reason this land becomes diseased. As long as you remain alive, you condemn Nosgoth to an eternity of decay.
Be still, Raziel. See this. As Ariel dies, I am being born to take her place as Balance Guardian. Such is my destiny.
My God.
At the moment of my first cry, Ariel's beloved, the Guardian Nupraptor, finds her corpse. Racked with grief and tormented by suspicions of treachery, Nupraptor plunges into a madness which overflows and infects all of the Guardians who are symbiotically bound, including me. The repercussions of Ariel's assassination were expertly calculated. The entire circle descends into madness, and I am tainted at the moment of my birth, instantly rendered incapable of fulfilling the role destiny has prepared for me.
Shall I show you the same mercy you showed the rest of the circle, then? You blithely murdered them to restore their pillars, yet your hand faltered when it came to the final sacrifice. What makes you exempt, Kain? You're merely the last man standing. Why condemn me for simply carrying out what you hadn't the courage to do yourself?
Let's drop the moral posturing, shall we? We both know there's no altruism in this pursuit. Your reckless indignation led you here. I counted on it. There's no shame in it, Raziel. Revenge is motivation enough. At least it's honest. Hate me, but do it honestly. 30 years hence, I am presented with a dilemma. Let's call it a two-sided coin. If the coin falls one way, I sacrifice myself and thus restore the pillars. But as the last surviving vampire in Nosgoth, this would mean the annihilation of our species. Mobius made sure of that. If the coin lands on the reverse, I refuse the sacrifice and thus doom the pillars to an eternity of collapse. Either way, the game is rigged.
We agree then that the pillars are crucial and must be restored.
Yes, Raziel. And that's why we've come full circle to this place.
So after all this, you make my case for me. To end this stalemate, you must die so that new guardians can be born.
Pillars don't belong to them, Raziel. They belong to us.
Your arrogance is boundless, Kain.
There's a third option. A monumental secret hidden in your very presence here. But it's a secret you have to discover for yourself. Unearth your destiny, Raziel. It's all laid out for you here.
You said it yourself, Kain. There are only two sides to your coin.
Apparently so. But suppose you throw a coin enough times. Suppose one day it lands on its edge.